My dad used to say, isn't it a mystery that the same sun that melts wax hardens clay? I remember as a kid thinking, yeah, that's a mystery. Why would the same sun melt wax and harden clay? And I thought about it a little bit longer. I thought it's not really much of a mystery at all. In actual fact, the constituency of wax is so designed that when it is exposed to heat, it melts. And of course, as far as clay is concerned, the constituency of clay is such that when it is exposed to heat, it hardens. So it sort of spoiled a bit of the mystery for me, but it made sense. Then I thought, isn't it amazing? You can get two people exposed to the same sets of circumstances, and some go one way and some go the other. And then I thought, it isn't really strange, because in actual fact, when they're exposed to these circumstances, all that happens is you find out what they're made of. You find out what's going on inside. The Bible talks a lot about temptation. It also talks about testing. The interesting thing about it, of course, is that in the language of the New Testament, Greek, they only have the same word, one word, peirasmos, for testing and temptation. I suppose when you're exposed to a situation, what determines whether it is a temptation or a testing is your response to it. You see, every time a situation comes your way, it gives you the opportunity to do right or the chance to go wrong. And the doing right or the going wrong tells you something about yourself. So you can get two people, identical situations, one will go right and the other will go wrong. That's probably why God allows temptation to continue in our lives. The Apostle Paul was very much concerned, as far as the Corinthians were concerned, that they were being tempted to be drawn back into the pagan feasts. All kinds of garbage going on there. He says they don't belong there. He decides that he will try to address this particular issue with them by showing them that their forefathers, the children of Israel, when they were delivered from Egypt, went through rather similar circumstances, and that they did not do well. And so he goes through some considerable length describing the historical details of what happened with the ancient children of Israel, and then he applies it to the Corinthians, and he says, these things are written for our example. A modern translation of that is, these things are written to screw it into our senses, to really get the message through. Because you see, what happened to the children of Israel was not only relevant to the Corinthian church, it is relevant today. They were exposed to situations that gave them the chance to do right or to go wrong. That's exactly the situation in which we find ourselves all the time. We call it temptation, or we call it testing. Some people, of course, are not very interested in history. Henry Ford said history is bunk. So much for his opinion of history. I wonder what he would think about the historical view of him now, whether he would regard that as bunk. Hegel, of course, he had a rather skeptical view of history. He said if history teaches us anything, it simply teaches us that it doesn't teach us anything. Probably a commentary on the fact that we're not very good at learning. And somebody else has pointed out that if we do not learn from history, we're damned to repeat it. What was happening with the Corinthians was that they were very, very well aware of the history of their forefathers, but they refused to learn from it, and accordingly were in deep danger of being damned to repeat it. The same, of course, is true for people today. So let's spend a little time looking into 1 Corinthians 10 to find out what we can about the children of Israel. The children of Israel were people who were greatly blessed. They were greatly privileged. God had told them quite categorically, out of all the nations, he had chosen them to be his precious possession. He had said that they were to be to him a kingdom of priests. They were his holy nation. He had set his specific love and attention upon them in order that they might become the means of blessing to all the nations of the world. There had never been a privileged people like the people of Israel. Unfortunately, they abused their privilege. How did they do that? First of all, through lack of appreciation of the blessings that had been heaped upon them. You'll notice that Paul reminds them that when they were delivered from slavery in Egypt, every one of them followed the cloud. What he means by that is that God showed the way for the children of Israel in the form of a pillar of fire by night and a cloud by day. They had quite specific guidance from the Lord. Not only that, he says that all of them passed through the sea. You remember that after the children of Israel were delivered from the Egyptians finally caught on and chased after them. They caught up with the Israelites just as they'd come to the banks of the Red Sea. And so they had the sea in front of them and they had the army behind them. A classic case of being stuck between the devil and the deep Red Sea. Little touch of humor there, which I enjoyed immensely. Now, God opened a way through the sea for them. You remember Charlton Heston did that wonderfully for us. And we got the picture of the sea piling up and them going through, and the Egyptians, when they tried to do it, being destroyed. They were, according to Paul, all baptized unto Moses at that time, in the sea and in the cloud. What that means is that they went through an experience where they clearly identified with Moses, the man of God. They were experiencing divine guidance. They were experiencing divine deliverance. They were identifying with the one who had delivered them and who was providing for them. Not only that, when they got into the wilderness, they did have a tendency to grumble. They grumbled that the food wasn't good enough. They grumbled that they didn't have enough refreshment. And so God provided abundantly for them in both regards. He told Moses to